So another string to your bow back in the day was spread betting. I understand you were right involved from the very start with that.
Kind of the start, yeah. So around the time where I basically went broke and scuttled back to live with my parents, I actually got a regular office job for a short time. The first time I'd ever done that, but I did used to work at the Dogs, and there was a guy there who was a great mentor of mine called Martin Johnstone. He's still the bookmaker, the main bookmaker at Paul Dogs, and he was somebody, he's a little bit older than me, but we're roughly the same age, and we spent time talking about gambling, and we liked snooker, and we used to go to snooker events. And he said to me one day, "This is amazing, that in the sporting life there were these spread betting companies advertising," and he said, "Well, I just think they make a lot of mistakes." And he had an account with one of them, which was IG Index. They don't do sports spread betting anymore. And he said to me, "Oh, they're doing some racing and stuff, and they haven't really thought about what they're doing enough. And I've been having some bets with them, and it's really good." So I basically started betting roughly my annual salary on a daily basis, and that was a bit hairy. I mean, I didn't earn very much. It was a rubbish office job, really, and I was working for like a quasi charity that could barely afford to pay me. And I would sort of sneak out at lunchtime and have a few bets and come back and find out if I'd won my annual salary. And one day they advertised for a job. They needed someone to work in City Index, which was the oldest of the spread firms. They'd invented spread betting on sport. And I went to work there. It was the most lunatic place ever. I turned up for my interview at 5:30 p.m. I'd driven 90 minutes to get there. And just as I was arriving at the office, some people were leaving. And the security guy said, "Yeah, that was the fella you were meeting. He just left." And so I had my interview at 12 midnight. Because that was when they came back a bit drunk from an evening out. It was like 5 people came back. And the fellow that was interviewing me asked me what football team I supported, and I sort of supported Arsenal. So I said that, and it turned out he was a big gooner. So that basically got me the job. Then he said, "Do you know Martin?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." And he said, "Yeah, I think I've seen you with him." And it turned out we'd met at the snooker a couple of years before. So that really did it then. I got the job basically on the strength of that. They told me the first 2 weeks, just sit in front of the cricket every day, really, and read the papers, and don't do anything. Don't ask any questions. Don't be a nuisance. Don't get in the way, and definitely don't answer the phone. The first day I answered the phone, I took a bet, and I just did what everyone else had done. I watched carefully what everyone was doing, so I read the price off the screen. The guy asked for a bet. It seemed reasonable to the amount of bets that people normally were having. And then I reported to the guy who was running the market that this guy had had a bet. And my boss said to me, "Why do you take a bet from him?" And I said, "Well, because he's got an account and he asked for a bet." And they said, "Well, okay, some advice now. In the time that you work here, your job is to never take a bet from that man ever. And if you do, you'll be sacked." So I said, "Well, he's got an account." And also we had a policy that we didn't ask people their account number before we gave them the price. So it was cricket he had a bet on, and he asked for the total runs. I said they're 300, 320, and he asked to buy 50 quid. And everyone else was betting 50 quid, 20 quid, 100 quid. So I thought it must be all right. It was within his credit limit. So I said, "Yeah, you got a bet." And from then on, I had to learn how to quote prices to people without knowing what their name was. So I had to recognise the voices of all the regular customers. I had to guess which way they were going to bet, and try and move the odds slightly one way or the other. And then if I guessed the wrong way, I had to tell my boss that I'd got it wrong. So yeah, it must have gone all right, because I worked in spread betting for 9 years, and it was a fun thing. I learned a lot. There were some very smart people that worked there. We certainly, between us, and I wouldn't say it was me, we were responsible for ruining at least 5 bookmakers, like completely just put them out of business. Like mostly the early online internet firms. And I'm not saying that was just the people at the companies I worked for. I mean, there were some very smart guys at Sporting Index as well. They were our big rivals at the time. My main claim to fame in that time was that I invented the bookings index. I was very proud of that. And I hate to think how many people have been turfed out of their house for losing money on the bookings index in their lifetime. But that was all down to me, guys. Sorry about that.